Greetings, awesome students. This is Josh Friedman, and this tutorial is one of the most valuable tutorials that you are going to get in this course. In this tutorial, I'm going to talk about different types of flight techniques in order to get a professional cinematic look while flying your drone. Before I begin, it's important to know that the samples that I'm giving to you are for a remote control that is in what we call Mode 2. In the United States of America, we fly in Mode 2. What this means is that your stick on the left of your controller is going to control up, down, yaw left, yaw right, and the stick on the right of the controller is going to control forward, backward, left, and right. If you're in Mode 1, they will be opposite. So again, the samples will be given to you in Mode 2, which is the mode that we fly in the United States. Now when flying for video, it's really important that you take your time. Slow flight is the best flight. When you're flying full speed forward or full speed in an orbit, you're not necessarily going to get a nice, smooth, beautiful shot. So take your time, and I would even recommend going into the controls of your drone and create settings so that when you push a little harder on the sticks, it won't move as fast. Now this may seem obvious, but I'm going to start with some of the most basic motions of flight. These aren't necessarily the most cinematic motions in flight. You will find with a lot of practice that the more cinematic motions come from moving the drone or the camera in more than one direction at a time. I'll get more into this later, but for now, let's just cover the most basic motions. The first technique I'm going to show you is the most obvious and the one we see most often, and that is full forward. The next technique I will share with you is the opposite, backward. To fly backward, you will simply pull the right stick down. Now keep in mind, backward and forward are in relation to the way that the drone is facing, which might not always be the way it's facing toward you. For example, if the drone is facing you and you pull down, it will fly away from you as it flies backwards. If the drone is facing forward and you pull down, it will fly toward you. The next motion is going to be hard left. Take the right stick and push left. And then we have a hard right. Take the right stick, push to the right. Now as I mentioned before, in Mode 2, the left controller is going to control the elevation up or down and the yaw rotation left or right. Here's an example of what it looks like when you just fly straight up by pushing up on the left stick. And here's an example of flying down by pulling down on the left stick. Now simply putting the drone in place and yawing isn't necessarily a bad effect and is really useful when you're flying in tighter spaces. Again though, make sure you're flying nice and slow and steady, and try to keep the drone in place. Perhaps this would be a good time to fly in GPS mode as opposed to attitude mode. To yaw left, simply take your left stick and push left. And to yaw right, push right. These are your 8 most basic motions that you have by flying with 2 sticks. Now we will get into the more cinematic and the more advanced techniques. These techniques involve either flying in 2 directions at the same time or flying in one direction while moving the camera in the opposite direction. We will begin with the most common complex technique, and this is an orbit. Now I'm a big fan of doing a half orbit, generally speaking, as opposed to a full orbit, simply because when you do a full orbit, you run the risk of either you being in the shot or you getting the shadow of your drone in a place where you don't want it to be. When you do a half orbit, you have a little bit more control over where you can stand and how to hide the shadow. Now you can half orbit in either direction, but the half orbit is created by pushing the sticks in opposite directions. So you're either going to push them both in or both out. Now keep in mind you can do a lot of these techniques by automating the drone. I challenge you to learn how to do these techniques without flying with the automated modes. It will make you a much better pilot to be able to create these on the fly. You'll have a lot more fun, and you will have a lot more creative freedom if you, as a pilot, learn to fly these advanced techniques on your own without automation. Now, an orbit can also be done as what I call the outside ring. In this case, it's similar to simply doing a yaw while staying in place, only instead of staying in place, you're facing outward and you are rotating the drone while moving to one side or the other. One of the most fun techniques is to do a corkscrew. The corkscrew is achieved generally by starting a little bit low, turning your camera straight down, and then accelerating up and to one side, all done with the left stick. One of the most effective cinematic shots is the reveal shot. The reveal shot is often achieved more easily with a dual operator system, but can be achieved with just one pilot. You're simply going to start with the camera down, you're going to fly forward slowly and reveal the camera up. So you're going to fly forward while bringing the camera up. You can also do a reverse reveal. Start with the camera down, fly backwards, and slowly bring the camera up. Next, I'll show you kind of a familiar trendy shot called the drone. When doing the drone, you want to safely get close to your subjects and then pull back and up, revealing the scene. The next technique is one that's called follow me. Now again, you could do this with an automated mode, and you're probably going to get a pretty decent cinematic shot out of it. But I challenge you to learn to fly this way with your own hands on the sticks. There are many different types of follow me's that you can do. One of the most cinematic techniques is to fly your drone facing your subject at a 90-degree angle. And as your subject moves forward, you will fly the drone in order to follow your subject at the same speed. And the final technique that we're going to discuss here is what I call the follow you. Whereas the follow me is the drone following the subject from a side or a different angle, the follow you is exactly what it sounds like. Someone's moving in front of you, running away from you, biking away from you, boating away from you, and you're just following behind with a straightforward shot. For a slightly more cinematic technique, you can either elevate or lower the drone while doing a follow you. Now obviously there are other directions and other motions that you could do with the drone and with the camera, but these are the most common techniques that I think are really important for you to master. Practice all of them, and over time, you will improve more and more and more to become a more professional pilot with advanced cinematic flight techniques. Again, I'm Josh Friedman, and if you have any questions, please email me.